What is up, everybody? Welcome to Football Diehards. I'm here with Jamie for Week 18. Jamie, what is up? You looking forward to the last week of the regular season?
Absolutely. I'm glad we get an additional week in the regular season. That alone is fun. How you doing? You ready to go?
Doing pretty good. Feeling a lot better about this week now than I originally did earlier in the week. So hopefully it's a good Week 18. Finish the season strong. We have playoffs coming up here, so that should be fun. But yeah, 13 games here. We'll go by it game by game. We'll talk some strategy, cash, GPP. We'll talk some ownership as well. Should be a fun time.
Yeah, let's get into it. I'm intrigued to see which way you're going this week. There's a few options that I'm still toying with. I'm gonna wait for the inactives report to see if any of these kind of clinched teams are going to be resting people to see if we get any additional values. But I'm not set yet. I don't know about you.
Yeah, not really. I tinkered with it a little bit before the show, a little bit last night as well. Have not set anything I absolutely love yet, but I kind of have an idea of where I'm going as of now. So we'll start with the very first game, though. We'll go with the Green Bay going against Detroit. I'll kick this one off to you. Are you liking anything in this game here?
This is one of the ones we got to watch. The Packers have clinched everything. They got the number one seed in the first round bye, so this is a meaningless game for them. Early in the week, the coach said that they're going to play their guys, but Davante Adams said that he does not plan to play the entirety of the contest. So, I'm pretty much fading the Packers. I don't know. How are you treating them? I think, if anything, we mentioned Equanimous St. Brown as a 3K GPP guy. I'm okay with that. I think other than that, I'm fading all Packers. Where are you sitting?
Yeah, I think I'm going to as well. I mean, on paper, this matchup's really good. It's really intriguing, but I have a feeling like they're only going to play like the first half, and at that point, it's probably just not worth it. Especially if you want to, go get a guy like Davante Adams at 9,400. If he's only playing a half, it's just not worth it when you can go up 300 more and get Cooper Kupp. So I have no clue what's going to happen, but I think especially cash, I would not go there on this Packers team. So I'm with you, completely fading the Packers for the most part. You like anything on the Detroit side?
Well, I've been resisting Amon-Ra St. Brown for far too long here, and I don't think I can resist him anymore. He's not in my initial lineup, but Jared Goff is expected to return, and I mean the targets speak for themselves there. That guy's been incredible lately with over 10 targets or over 11 targets in 5 straight games. So the only thing here that you have to worry about with him is if it's a meaningless game that they don't push him. But I mean, it's been meaningless games for Detroit for a while now, so I'm not worried about him, and he'd be a top target for me at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, I like St. Brown as well, especially if the Packers are going to rest their starters at some point. And you mentioned the targets have just been crazy for St. Brown. The last couple of weeks, he's had at least 10 targets in the last 5 weeks. So he's been on a roll, and he keeps getting priced up, but he keeps performing very well. So I'm with you there. I'm going to play some Brown this week. And then we talked a little bit on Friday. I have some interest in Swift. It's just he's 5,900. The price tag is very intriguing. There are a lot of other guys that I like around him more, but it's just crazy seeing Swift at 5,900 for the first time since like week 3. He was 5,800, but this is the second cheapest he's been all year. But I don't know. There's a lot of question marks with Swift.
Yeah, and another thing we mentioned on Friday is we talked like at least a dozen mid-tier running backs, and I don't know. I find them. We'll get into them, I'm sure, as this show goes on. I just find them to be a little bit of a safer floor with somewhat of an equal ceiling. So I'm probably not going to get to Swift in this one.
Yeah, makes sense to me, but I think that's about it for this game. We'll move on to the next one. We will go to the Colts going against the Jaguars. And yeah, not a ton sticks out in this game for me. The obvious one is going to be Jonathan Taylor. We talked about on Friday how this week especially, like you have to go and get either Taylor or Cup. It's really hard to get them both. I tried to. I was not successful. I even had to like force to get either Taylor and Cup into my lineup. So it's definitely tough to do that this week, for me at least. So Taylor is a guy that I really like. Great matchup. Everything's lining up for him. The Colts has something to play for. Taylor's a great play. He's 9,300, very expensive, but I do think it's definitely worth it if you can get there. For me personally, if I'm paying up for something, it's going to be Cooper Kupp at the wide receiver position and not Jonathan Taylor. Because of all the running backs we talked about that are like 6K, around that 6K range. But Jonathan Taylor, if I can go up and get him, if I'm not playing Cooper Kupp, I think he's a really good play. So Jonathan Taylor for me on the Colts side, and then nothing really on the Jacksonville side outside of maybe Laquan Treadwell at 4,400 as a cheap wide receiver. But those are the two I'm looking at in this game. What are you looking at in this game as well? Same two, and anything else you like and I missed?
Yeah, I'm with you. And I've chosen Kupp also as the expensive pay up. I even tinkered around with if on the off chance that Green Bay just decides they're resting everybody and we get to play like St. Brown and Cash or something like that, it still doesn't really work. Just with some of the plays that you really want to get in there. So Taylor and Kupp together is probably not going to happen for you in Cash. I mean, definitely you can take shots on that in GPP with some of the cheap guys, but yeah, he'd be the only one I'd be interested in. They're going to have to feed him the ball in this one. I'm not interested in the Colts passing game at all. So yeah, Taylor or nobody for me in this one.
I like it. Taylor is coming in as the number one projected highest owned one running back at 20%, and rightfully so. The matchup is very good this week, but yeah, not a ton of that game really outside of Taylor. We'll move on to the next one. We have the Giants going against Washington. What are you liking in this game here?
The two defenses. Certainly nobody on the Giants offensive side who have been possibly the worst that I've ever seen as a fan. And Washington has been, 30th in offensive efficiency DVOA. So I think both defenses are very, very viable in this one. It's not great weather there last I checked, so I think he can use either one of them in any format, but no offensive players on either side outside of maybe Antonio Gibson for Washington, but that's about it.
Yeah, for me, defense, especially Washington at 3,100, probably one of my favorite defenses. Did not get there in Cash as a defense I like that's cheaper that we'll talk about. But yeah, I think that defense is fine. And then also, John Bates does stick out. No Ricky Seals-Jones. He is 3K, solid matchup there. And then Gibson, you mentioned, he is 5,800. I want to take a look at the ownership on Gibson. Friday, he wasn't getting much ownership, and that has not changed. Gibson is the 26th projected highest on running back at about 2%. So not a lot of people going Gibson's way. This game as a whole, probably nobody's playing it much, probably outside of the defenses, right? So, yeah, I'm with you, though. I think both defenses could be interesting. What are the Giants' defense? 2,800? I think I'd rather go with a cheaper defense than that. But, yeah, really like the Washington defense at 3,100.
Yeah, and that ownership for Gibson is kind of intriguing for GPP, especially if you're going to play the Washington defense. If you correlate with any player, it's him. So I'm okay with taking shots on Gibson. He's one of the ones. I'd probably rather play him than Swift at the same price tag, even though it's kind of an unknown for both of them as far as how much they'll actually play.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, these other guys we'll talk about, the mid-range, are getting a lot more ownership than Gibson. So, yeah, I don't mind some shots on him in some tournaments there, but I think we covered that game there. Move on to the next one. We have Chicago going against Minnesota. And, yeah, there's a couple pieces I do like in this game. We'll start on the Chicago side. I like David Montgomery. He is 6,800. This guy has been on a nice little run as of late. Had a great game last week against the Giants. They did price him up only 300, But yeah, I still like the matchup here. I can see him getting 20 plus carries. They're also involving him in the passing game. We've been talking about this past year, which is really nice. So pass catching upside for Montgomery, like the matchup. He's 6,100. I like him a lot. Other than that, on the Chicago side, we talked about a cheap wide receiver on Friday in Allen Robinson, who is 4K. I don't mind taking some shots on him. He's had 6 targets in his last 3 games played. He's way too cheap for Allen Robinson. Yes, he has not done much this year, but maybe he ends the year on a high note. And then also Cole Kmet as a cheap tight end, 3,400. Cole Kmet has been kind of a target machine, especially considering the price. 5 targets in his last 7 games. So Cole Kmet, Allen Robinson are 2 cheap guys that I like, and then also Dave Montgomery. Those are kind of the 3 I'm looking at on Chicago. How about you on Chicago, and anything you like on Minnesota?
I'm very much into this game as a whole. It's tough to get into it too much for cash. The problem with that is, like you mentioned, Montgomery and Ertz are like the epitome of cash plays. So you got to kind of be okay with with the fact that the Bears are playing a meaningless game. But again, they have been too. This is not like the first week they've been eliminated. So also the fact that this game is indoors in January is huge. Just the weather across the country is not great. So we're getting a nice clean weather game with nothing but indoor temperatures here. So I actually like stacking the Bears in GPP. They've actually averaged 10 more passes per game with Dalton as the quarterback than with Fields as the quarterback, which is a pretty significant number. So, but you mentioned Robinson and Kmet. I like Mooney in there too. And then on the Vikings side, Justin Jefferson is probably the obvious one here. Without Adam Thielen, he has a 34% target share. When we did the show on Friday, I believe he was the highest owned. He's since now the 4th highest owned. So I think people are gravitating towards Kupp more, but not sleeping on Jefferson either. So he's a great play on his own or as a bring back or even in cash if you're going with Taylor and you want to try and fit an expensive wide receiver that's not Cooper Kupp. What are your thoughts on Dalvin Cook? 7,800 is a nice... It's too cheap for him, really. Do you anticipate he plays the full game? Is that risk, is price low enough to take that risk for you?
Yeah, the price is intriguing. This is one that kind of stuck out to me earlier in the week a little bit more, Dalvin Cook. But as the week went on, I'm just seeing a ton of value down low that I don't really want to get there a lot. But yeah, Dalvin Cook, it's intriguing, right? There is some question marks if he does play the whole game, but if he does, like 7,800 is too cheap. But yeah, earlier in the week, I thought I'd be a lot higher on him than I am now. But yeah, I still think he's a great play.
Yeah, I haven't found myself getting to him, but I might try and work him in at least once, just on the off chance that he plays that game fully. Neither team has indicated that they're going to rest anybody. So I think you can kind of approach this game where you're going to get a full game out of both teams, which is why I like it as a stack.
Yeah, for sure. Dalvin Cook coming in at the 6th, projected highest in running back at about 12%. Yeah, I like him. It's just you could save like 2K just about it with some of these guys mid-range that I like as well. So I'm kind of doing that. But yeah, Dalvin Cook, if I have the salary, I don't mind getting some of him. Is there anything that we missed in this game? I think we touched on about everything.
Yeah, I think those are the key pieces that we're looking for today.
All right, sounds good. We'll move on to the next game. We have Tennessee going against Houston. I'll let you take this one off. What are you looking at in this game here?
I'm going to start with Dante Foreman, and I want to kind of get your thoughts on him too. This guy I've been like putting him in and taking him out of my lineup for the past 6 days. They're still using 3 running backs. Now that the Chiefs have won, though, they have to win this game to get the 1 seed. If they lose this game, they're the 2, and they don't get a bye. So this is a huge game for Tennessee. Foreman has 15 touches or more in 4 of his last 5 games, and Houston's given up the 3rd most fantasy points per game to running backs. Right now, he's out of my cash lineup. Now I look at our ownership, though, and he is coming in as the second highest owned running back behind Jonathan Taylor. So I don't know what I'm doing with him yet. What's your take on Foreman? He's not involved in the passing game either, which bugs me for DraftKings. But I mean, he's 5,700. What's your thought on him?
Yeah, my take on him is he's cheap. He's 5,700, and like you mentioned, he's getting touches, and then on top of that, he has a really good matchup, and on top of that, they have something to play for. So, yeah, I like Foreman quite a bit. We see why he's coming in at 17%, the second projected highest on running back, and I totally get it. One of my favorite plays down in that mid range. Did not get him in my cash build initially. Because I went only 2 running backs in my cash build. I might change it a little bit, but yeah, I mean, I would not mind him at all in cash. I mean, this guy has a great matchup. He's been getting touches, and the ownership especially does make me want to kind of play him in cash as well, right?
Yeah, the ownership is bothering me a little bit, and I'm looking at like Sony Michel right under him. He's in my cash lineup right now, and I wonder how much Akers is going to affect him. We'll get into that game later, but I don't know. There's other cheap ones too. This is a tough call for me. What about the passing game? I mean, we have to like AJ Brown here, right? Even with Leo Jones playing.
Yeah, I have AJ Brown in cash at the moment. Really good matchup, and on top of that, again, a game that they need to win. So, yeah, really, really like Brown. He'd be the other piece on Tennessee that I like.
Yeah, and again, he's banged up as he usually is with a calf injury this time. But I mean, 7,000 just seems way too cheap for him. And again, like you said, they need to win this game. The Titans are one of the. I mean, it's the 1 seed, so it's not like they're fighting for their lives here. But that 1 seed is huge this year, as with the only bye week, and the fact that they can rest and get Derrick Henry back potentially in that divisional round, get Brown and Jones some much needed rest. It's so big for them to win. So I mean, I think a piece from this game is a good idea.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge game. Brown is coming in as the third projected highest on wide receiver at 16% behind Cooper Kupp and Christian Kirk. But on the Houston side, for me, it's Brandon Cook 6,300. If anything, I thought Rex Burkhead is kind of intriguing, but Vaughn is like the same price, so I'd probably go Vaughn instead. But it's probably Cooks if anything, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a good matchup for him too. The Titans have given up the 4th most fantasy points per game to wide receivers, and Davis Mills has actually played well. And Cooks leads in pretty much every relevant receiving category for them. So if you do wind up stacking Tennessee, which I didn't do, I would come back with Cooks for sure. And the other thing with Burkhead is David Johnson is back too, so that does limit his upside a little bit. And the Titans have been great against the run too.
Yeah, definitely a tough matchup. Do you see the ownership on oh, there he is. Brandon Cook's coming in at the 6th projected highest owned wide receiver, so yeah, definitely up there.
Yeah, people aren't worried about his, anything with the quarterback situation or the team being bad. He's been consistent as he's played all year, so I can see that ownership.
Yeah, he's been good. But I think that's about it for this game. We'll move on to the next one. We have Pittsburgh going against Baltimore. I'll let you kick this one off. What are you liking in this game here?
So you talked about. I'll let you talk about the Pittsburgh because you did a good job with that on Friday with the Roethlisberger against Baltimore defense. But as far as Baltimore goes, right now Tyler Huntley is in my placeholder for cash, which. There's some things I don't like about that because Baltimore has allowed the most sacks this year, and Pittsburgh has an excellent pass rush. They have a top 10 pressure rate. TJ Watt's going for the sack record today, so that does worry me a little bit. But I mean, Huntley is the rushing quarterbacks just have their own value in DFS, and he's rushed for 222 yards in his limited time this year, 4 starts. So. 5,700. I really kind of like that. I would prefer the $500 more for Taysom Hill, who we'll talk about later. But right now, I don't have it. So, tinkering around, I'll kind of see where that falls. But I think Huntley is a good cheap cash quarterback. And then in GPP, I think you can pair him with Mark Andrews. Obviously, he's got 40 targets from Huntley in his 4 starts, and he's actually 141 yards away from the single season record for receiving yards for a tight end. So there's incentive to get him to that too. So those are I'm not interested in anybody else outside of those 2 guys on Baltimore. So why don't you tell us about Pittsburgh, or is there anyone else on Baltimore that you're looking at besides those 2?
No, those would be the 2. Huntley, 5,700, nice cheap quarterback with some rushing upside, and then also Mark Andrews. If I can afford Mark Andrews in a lineup, I'd have no problem doing so, but I am saving like $4,000 this week at tight end. So I don't know how much I'm going to get there, but I think is a great play. On the Pittsburgh side, there's a couple pieces that do stick out. I really like Diontae Johnson. I thought he wasn't going to play earlier in the week, but I think he was activated on Friday afternoon. And yeah, I like Diontae Johnson quite a bit. This is a guy that is getting a ton of targets week in and week out. We talked about Friday how we love attacking this Baltimore pass defense, especially as of late. And Diontae Johnson is somebody that can go out there and easily get 15 targets. You could argue he's a little bit underpriced as well. So I like Diontae Johnson quite a bit. Don't mind some Najee Harris as well. This guy is, a big part of the offense, 7,200. He's going to get a lot of targets. He's going to get a lot of carries. This guy has 25 plus, touch upside in each and every game. So Harris and Johnson are the 2 big ones. And then also talked about a little bit with some Big Ben, 5,400. I mean, the price tag it's kind of crazy. A 5,400, and I know Ben's not good, but this is his last game, and Baltimore has given up like the second most DraftKings points to opposing quarterbacks. So I don't mind in tournaments like a Big Ben, Diontae Johnson single stack there, but Diontae Johnson especially is probably my favorite piece on the Steelers offense.
Yeah, I agree. And another thing on the Steelers is yesterday they put James Washington on the COVID list, so he's out. He's been basically running as the wide receiver 4. So it's not like it's a huge upgrade to the rest, but it does condense it more. I've been kind of on Claypool as a GPP play all week with the Ravens giving up so many big plays, most completions of 20, 30, and 40 yards. So without Washington, I like that even a little bit more. So I like your Ben stack. Ben with Diontae, absolutely, and I'm probably I would probably throw Claypool in it too.
Yeah, any interest in McLeod?
Yeah. I mean, he got 10 targets last week, so he's the wide receiver 3, but he surged past James Washington on that offense. So I'm fine playing him. Not a cash play, but certainly a GPP under 4,000 play. I would like.
Yeah, he's 3,800 there. So yeah, I think we touched on about everything for this game. Was there anything we missed on this one?
No, you talked about Najee Harris. His matchup's not good, but the price tag's amazing. So I'm good playing him in any format.
Oh, yeah. Yep, I like it. We'll keep moving on to the next game, and we have Cincinnati going against Cleveland. I'll kind of kick this one off. It's Browns defense for me, or nothing else. I don't have interest in really any other piece. But yeah, Browns defense, 2,600. Going against some backups. And the Browns defense, it's not like they're terrible at all. They're a pretty good defense. So this price tag, even if the Bengals had their starters, I wouldn't like it as much, but still, it's a solid price tag. And now that the Bengals are resting most of their starters, Browns defense 2,600 is a steal in my opinion. Outside of that, though, I'm just not interested in any piece of this game really on the Cincy side, offensively, or the Cleveland side offensively. How about you? Are you liking anything in this game?
No, it's same thing. It's the Browns defense. They're definitely. I would like to use Washington at 3,100 for defense, but I'm finding the $500 just so precious right now. And the Browns, like you said, they're 3rd in sack rate. They're 5th in pressure rate against backups at home in weather. I like that play for defense, especially for cash. I guess the only thing else I would consider doing is, we'll wait and see. There's really been no indication that Chubb and Hunt are going to rest, but if they wind up not playing, then you got Dearness Johnson as the lead back who crushed in that role earlier. So that would be a play you'd want, but things have to happen for that to go.
Yeah. People are playing some Pirine this week, 5,300. I don't really want to get there, but do you have any interest in some Pirine?
Not with Vaughn also at 5,300, who we'll get into later. And even Burkhead that you talked about there. He has contract incentives even with David Johnson back. I don't see the need to play Pirine there.
Yeah, I just don't see myself getting there as well. But yeah, not a ton of this game outside of that Browns defense. Going to be counting on them a lot today. So we'll see what happens there. We'll move on to the next game, though. We have Carolina going against Tampa Bay. And yeah, on the Tampa Bay side, there are a couple pieces that do stick out. Vaughn is 5,300, Keyshawn Vaughn. The matchup's not great. Carolina's run defense is pretty solid, but he is going to be the lead back. Him and Bell are going to, carry the backfield. Mostly him though. I like Vaughn a little bit, 5,300. And then I'm also looking at some cheap wide receivers here. We have Tyler Johnson, who is 4,200. And then we also have Cyril Grayson, who is 4,400. I think either of those are kind of fine for tournaments. I don't know if I'll get to either in cash. But tournament-wise, I'm looking at those two. And then also don't hate, a little sprinkle on Mike Evans at 7,100. So those are kind of the four I'm looking at on Tampa Bay. I'm looking at Vaughn, 5,300, Grayson, 4,400, Tyler Johnson, 4,200, some cheap wide receivers, and then Mike Evans at 7,100. How about you on the Tampa side? And then what are you looking at on the Carolina side?
Yeah, this is a tricky one to me for Tampa. First of all, nothing on Carolina. Oh, no, actually, that's not true. So this is a tricky one for Tampa. They can move a little bit in seeding, but they can't get the bye. So I don't really know how how much they're going to push it here. You're right. I mean, I have Grayson currently in the placeholder for cash, but I don't think he's going to stay there. Even with we're getting some ownership from him. The good thing on him is he got 8 targets and 64% of the snaps after Antonio Brown left. So I think he's okay, but Brady has to play the whole game for him to be really okay, and there is a chance for that not to happen. As far as Mike Evans goes, he needs 54 yards for some kind of incentive. I don't remember what it is. But it's 54 yards. I know that. So I wonder if they're going to do that early and then sit him because he's banged up too. This is an odd one for me. I really like Vaughn, but they use Bell too. I don't know how much they're going to do that. I'm okay playing Vaughn in any format though. So I'm going to kind of explore that. I think I would prefer Foreman, who we talked about before, for $400 more, even though I think Vaughn would be involved in the passing game more. It's complicated. But yeah, Tampa in cash is a little bit frightening to me. But you're right. I mean, all of them are GPP worthy.
Yeah, it's definitely probably like a GPP game for me in terms of the Tampa Bay side. You said you like somebody on the Carolina side?
Yeah, I do like DJ Moore at 5,800. Again, though, this is for a team that's out of it. You have to wonder how much they're going to do it. But 5,800 for a guy who has a 29% target share from Darnold in a game where they should be passing more. The only problem with him is they've been so bad offensively. I mentioned, the Giants have been 32nd in offensive efficiency, and Washington was 30th. Carolina's been 31st. So, is he going to be able to get more of the ball? Over Darnold's last 7 games, he has 2 touchdowns and 11 turnovers. So I don't know about that. But Moore would be the one that I'd be looking at here. And it looks like we're getting very good. He's a top 5 owned. He's 5th highest projected owned guy. at 5,800. So I think that's a price tag play, just with how the chemistry he had with Darnold earlier in the season. I like it, but I'm not convinced that I can do it in cash yet.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. Typically you want to attack this passing defense of Tampa Bay rather than the run defense. So yeah, I think more, if anything, for Carolina for me. But that's about it for this game here. We'll move on to the next one. We have New England going against Miami, and I'll let you kick this one off. You liking anything in this game here?
No, I have 0 pieces in this game. The Patriots, if they're going to kind of make up ground, they need to win, and the Bills lose at home to the Jets, which is unlikely. I think for this one, what we want to do is watch for Damian Harris's status. He's got a hamstring problem, and I think there's definitely a chance with them kind of not pushing too hard to do that, just because, the Bills losing to the Jets at home is so unlikely. I think the Patriots know where they're going to sit. I think they might opt for caution and rest Harris. This is just me saying that. I haven't heard anything. And if they do, then Stevenson is a smash play against Miami, and I will consciously try and work him into my cash, but we got to see that first.
Yeah, and the only problem with that is the game starts at 4:25. But yeah, I totally agree. Right. If Harris is out, Stevens is a monster play at 5,900.
Yes, and you're right. That's a really tough one to do, and it's also kind of a reason why I'm a little hesitant to. I talked about like Sony Michel versus Dante Foreman in my cash. By leaving Michel in the later game over Harris, that gives that flexibility, because I do think I would like Stevenson more in that case. So, you have that opportunity to flip then.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me. But yeah, it'd be Stevenson if anything, if Harris is out. Other than that, typically I'd have some interest in Waddle. Probably not this week, not this game. Nothing's really sticking out here.
No, this over-under is under 40, so you're not getting much fantasy from this one.
No, not at all. So I think we can skip this one for the most part. We'll have to look out for the injury news on Harris, but other than that, nothing really else to mention. We'll go to the next game. We have the Saints going against Atlanta, and yeah, Taysom Hill, 6,200. I like him quite a bit in terms of cash. You save some salary here, rushing yard upside, rushing touchdown upside as well. So Taysom Hill, I like him. Not going to stack him with anybody. I'm not going to stack him with anyone. I'm probably just going to run him by himself in cash. And if I was to do it in tournaments as well, I don't see myself stacking him as well. So it'd be Taysom Hill for me. And other than that, on New Orleans, that's about it. It's Taysom Hill. I think Kamara has a very good matchup. I just can't trust him, especially at 8,300. I can't trust him. So it's just Taysom Hill for me on the Saints. How about you? Anything else you like on the Saints?
No, not really. And I love Taysom Hill in this one. Like I said, it's right now Huntley is in my placeholder for cash. I'm going to search as much as I can to find that 500. As much as I do like Huntley, Hill's matchup is so much better. Atlanta's given up the 4th most fantasy points per game to quarterbacks, 3rd most rushing yards to quarterbacks. And the Saints need to win. They're fighting for the playoffs here. They, I forget, they need to win, and who is it that needs to lose for them to get in? Let me just look it up real quick. The 49ers need to lose to the Rams. So it's a realistic possibility that they can make the playoffs. They'll be going all out here. I do like Kamara. With Ingram doubtful, he's he had a 78% snap share. And 6 targets. It's not the double-digit targets we banked on when Drew Brees was the quarterback, obviously, but I'm good with him in GPP. I didn't use him, but I'm fine if you do.
Yeah, he's fine. I mean, I'd probably rather go up and get spend an extra 1,000, get Taylor if I could. But yeah, Kamara, right. I think is fine. But yeah, Taysom Hill's probably the most intriguing aspect of this game for me. and he's not getting a ton of ownership. Last time I checked, he was getting like the 10th projected highest owned quarterback there at around 3%. So not a ton of people going to him. Not sure why. I mean, the matchup's really good. Rushing yard upside, cheap. I like it myself.
Yeah, I don't quite get why. I mean, if the Saints were eliminated, I could see, but they're not. They're playing hard for their lives, and they're gonna still be, because their competition, the Rams 49ers game, is also at 425. So there's no incentive to wait and see what we do. So they're gonna be playing full out here.
Yeah, for sure. And is there anything you like on Atlanta? Looks like Kyle Pitts is questionable. Have you heard anything about the status of Kyle Pitts? I've not heard anything as of late.
I remember earlier in the week he said he was going to play. I don't know, take that for what it is. I haven't seen anything other than that. That was like Wednesday or something. Like, he said he commits to playing in this one. I'm not using anybody on Atlanta, though.
Yeah, I mean, if Pitts was out, would you have any interest in Hayden Hertz? I don't think I would. I mean, that's still he's probably too expensive.
Yeah, if he was 2,500, I would, because you always look for
Yeah.
those 2,500 starting quarterbacks. But he's 3,200. I mean, I'd still play Komet for 200 more than that.
Yeah, I'd play Komet or I'd play Bates instead. So yeah, nothing on
Yeah.
Atlanta. I think most interest is probably on the Saints side there, and with Taysom Hill and Kamara, if anything. But move on to the next game. We have the Jets going against the Bills. I'll let you kick this one off. What are you liking in this game here?
Everything on the Bills side. The Bills need to win this game to clinch the 2 seed, I think. No, that's not accurate at all. Chiefs are the 2 seed. So I think now the Bills have a weird range of seeding now, because they can get as high as 3, and they can also drop as low as 7. So you have to figure that they want the wild card game at home. So everything in this. I have 2 different Bills stacks. One with the passing game, with Josh Allen and Diggs, and kind of mixing around Gabriel Davis and Dawson Knox. And then I like the utilizing the total run games. We've been attacking the Jets on the ground all year. Last week, Josh Allen and Devin Singletary each rushed for 2 touchdowns. I think it's reasonable to expect to chase that upside again in even better matchups. So I have one where I have Allen, Singletary, and the Bills defense, who should cream the Jets at home in bad weather.
Yeah, I like it. Especially, I like that correlation with Singletary in the Bills defense. Yeah, you mentioned pretty much everything. I like Josh Allen a lot, 8,100. Not getting there in cash, I'd like to, but it just makes it so hard to go up there and pay for Josh Allen. But yeah, tournaments especially, I will be high on Josh Allen. Probably my favorite stack of the week is this Bills team. Liking, a lot of pieces on here. You got Diggs, you have, Davis, you have Singletary, you have Josh Allen. The Bills defense, 3,700, I like a lot. So for tournaments, this is probably my favorite team to get to. If you're running it back, and I'm not sure if you are, but if you are running it back, is there a piece that you like from the Jets?
I mean, the receivers they just keep losing receiver after receiver here. I would probably use Carter. If anything else, the Bills have been vulnerable to the run and not at all to the pass still. So 5,000 Carter involved in the passing game, I think, is fine. But you don't need to do a Jets run back. Anyone for you?
No, I mean you have Barrios out, Moore is out, Crowder is 4,600. That would be intriguing if the Bills' pass defense wasn't phenomenal, right? So Crowder sticks out in terms of he's going to be that next guy up. It's just the matchup's really brutal.
Yeah, and even they're even good against the slot too. Sometimes you like those slot receivers against good passing defense, because that you just they protect so much outside and you just throw it underneath, but they stop that too. So how much volume is he going to get though in that one? So I mean, I guess that's possible to do. I prefer Carter, but I can see it.
Yeah, I don't think you have to run it back. The Bills are huge favorites. The last time I checked, what were they like 15-point favorites, something crazy like that, right? So you don't think you have to run
Yeah.
this one back. But yeah, I'm very high on the Bills this week.
Yeah, for sure. Stack them up, and you can use the pieces in cash for sure.
Yep, 100% agree. Let's move on to the next game. We have a couple more to get through here. We have San Francisco going against the Rams. I'll kind of kick this one off here. There are a couple pieces I do like on the Rams. Sony Michel, we've been talking about him, a guy that's kind of been, taking over the backfield and doing very well the past, several month and a half, getting a ton of touches week in and week out. You talked about how Cam Akers is coming back. I mean, it's something to mention, but they're talking about that he's going to only handle a limited role. So I kind of feel like they're going to stick with Sony Michel. It's been working really well. I mean, why would they go away from it? And I do expect Michel to, continue to, continue to do what he's been doing the past several weeks. So I'm not completely scared away from Cam Akers. And I'm just taking a look at the ownership. And Michel is getting some decent ownership, and rightfully so. I like him a lot. Other than that, Cooper Kupp, 9,700. He's getting a ton of ownership, and rightfully so. This guy's been on a roll all year. I don't think he's had one bad game this year. It's been crazy, and he's priced now up to 9,700, and I think it's warranted. We talked about on Friday how even if he was 10K, we'd probably still be playing this guy. So I do like Cooper Kupp a lot, Sony Michel, and then the other piece I don't hate is going to be some Odell Beckham Jr. at 5,800. But Michel and Kupp especially, very high on them this week. I like them a lot.
Yep, I agree. They're both in my cash. The Rams are in a huge spot. They clinch the NFC West, and I believe the 2 seed if they beat San Francisco. The 49ers lost 3 starters to the COVID list in their secondary. So, I mean, I don't really think there's anybody capable of stopping Kupp. He needs 12 catches to break the single-season record and 136 yards to break that record. Both are well within reach. And like you said, Michel, over the last 5 games, he's averaging 25 touches per game. Last week, there was only 1 snap he wasn't on the field, and he got 5 targets in the passing game, too. So Akers didn't play, and he definitely is. They've said that. But like you said, I can't imagine that they're just going to give him a significant role in this first game back. Later on in the playoffs, maybe. But today, I think you're right, that they're going to just roll with Michel with what's been working and wrap up that 2 seed and then go from there.
Yeah, I'd be shocked, honestly, if Akers was a huge part of the game plan today. But we'll see. You never know what could happen. But on the San Francisco side, is there anything that you're liking?
Well, it was funny. I built a Rams stack in GPP, and in this game, you definitely want a San Francisco run back. It seems like Jimmy Garoppolo is going to play, which helps their passing game a lot more. So I think anybody in the passing game is a legitimate run back. I went with Mitchell as mine. He's the focal point of that offense. I mean, every time he gets hurt and then he comes back and he gets a full workload. He had 58% playing snap share over Houston. You have to figure that goes up. Over the last 4 times he's played, he's averaged 28 touches. So they're kind of the Rams are middle of the road matchup against running backs. But I mean, he'd be the guy for you, right? Too, or would you prefer someone in the passing game?
It'd be Mitchell. Not crazy about it, but it would be Mitchell at 6,000. He's somebody that I do like. But I'd rather get some of these other guys even Singletary, Foreman. Somebody also talk about Michel. There's just there's a lot more guys I'd like instead. But he'd be another guy to at least mention for me, at least if I wanted to change it up a little bit. It looks like he's coming in very low owned, around 3%. So maybe a good tournament play.
Yeah, that's one I really like, especially coming back with Ram stacks.
Yeah, I like that as well. He'd be the only piece. Don't see myself playing Kittle. I'm not paying 8,500 for Deebo Samuel. It'd be Mitchell, and that's about it.
Yep, I agree.
All right. So, one last game to talk about. We have Seattle and Arizona, and I don't know about you, but I have a lot of interest in this game. Well, I'll let you kick it off, and we'll start on the Arizona side. So, for Arizona, what are some of the guys you're looking at?
Well, yeah, I'm with you. There's so much. There's so much on Arizona, and when we get in this game, I just want to mention something about FanDuel too. So I do think that you want to try and get at least one of Christian Kirk and Zach Ertz, who are both look like they're coming in at the highest owned at each of their position for us. So I do think it's important to get one of them in. I think both is fine. But I mean, they have dominated the targets for Arizona, and this is a really good matchup against Seattle. They've given up the 8th most fantasy points per game to tight ends, and Ertz is just a target monster there. The Seahawks have given up the 9th most receptions, the 11th most receiving yards. So there's no problem with Kirk either. Do you have a preference of which one? I know you're high on these two guys too. If you had to play one, which one would you go for? Like position scarcity aside.
Position scarcity aside, it'd be Ertz. But the way I'm kind of building my lineups this week, it's going to be Kirk for me, because I do like some really cheap tight ends that are easy to kind of fit in, like Komet. Whereas wide receiver, it's kind of iffy for me. So it'd be Kirk for me if I had to pick one. But in terms of liking one more, it's definitely Ertz. But I just can't fit him in my lineup a lot this week.
Yep, that's the way I've been building too. I have Kirk in my current placeholder and Komet as my tight end. And just given the ownership that Komet is at least challenging Ertz, I'm fine doing that.
Man, you're saving a ton with him as well. See, I'm fine with that. But yeah, Ertz is obviously a great play. He's we talked about, he's like getting more targets than Christian Kirk. So yeah, if you can get both of them in your lineup, I mean that's fantastic. Any thoughts on James Conner? Edmonds is out. Seattle's run defense is not good at all, and he is questionable. So it kind of it's a little scary. 425 game. But have you heard anything recently about him playing or not?
No, he's been practicing on a limited basis. He's their 4th highest owned running back, rightfully so. There, I mean, I'm gonna put him in. I think it's a good idea to put him in your flex. If you are gonna play him in cash, there are definite pivots to him later on, that we talked about it. Just to list a couple here, just that I'm looking at. You can go to Penny in the same game, who we haven't talked about. Michelle, if he's not in your lineup. Mitchell, Singletary. If any of these guys aren't in your lineup, Ramondre Stevenson, if Harris sits, cheaper to Keyshawn Vaughn. These are all 425 pivots that are viable. So I think it's safe to put him in your cash lineups, even not knowing.
Yep, I have them in there as well. And you mentioned really easy pivot options, so that's good. It does make me feel pretty good about that. So that's about it on the Arizona side. Do you have any interest in some of these other wide receivers though for Arizona? Guys like Wesley, AJ Green potentially. Any of those guys?
AJ Green. I mean, Adam Schefter has been tweeting about AJ Green all day that he needs 10 catches to earn $250,000 and 75 receiving yards to earn $250,000. I still don't know how much coaches prioritize that kind of thing when, for Arizona, the team has to come first. They can move up. They need to win this game. And if the Rams somehow lose to the 49ers, which is, of course, possible, and the Cardinals win, the Cardinals are the 2 seed. So I don't know if they're going to all right, feed AJ Green to get him his $250,000. I don't care what happens in this game. I don't think they do that, but at least it is something to note for them. The 75 yards at least seems very viable.
Yeah, that does seem viable. The 10 catches would definitely surprise me quite a bit. Trying to take a look at the ownership on some of these guys. I don't see Wesley. Do you see Wesley? Off the top
Yeah,
of
I
my
think he was
head,
actually fairly high up.
yeah, I remember Friday he was pretty high up.
Yeah, he's
ninth
ninth.
now. Wow.
Yep. And AJ
Wow.
Green is 10th. So people are all over this passing game too.
Yeah, for sure. People seem to be high on this game in general, and so am I. So yeah, lots of interest on the Arizona side. Can see myself having two pieces of this offense pretty comfortably in cash, especially, and then just tons in tournaments. Probably my second favorite team to stack on the entire slate behind the Bills. We didn't talk about Kyler Murray. You liking Kyler Murray, stacking him as well?
Oh yeah, yep, for sure. And that's the thing too. Like I mentioned, FanDuel. If you play FanDuel is they really made this annoying with Arizona because Zach Ertz is 50. I got to pull up my lineup here quick. Zach Ertz is 5,500. Oh, actually, I can do the ownerships. Christian Kirk is 6,200, which is egregious for FanDuel. Zach Ertz is 5,600, which is even more egregious. Both those guys have to be in your lineup, and then James Conner is too cheap as well. So Conner is 7,000. FanDuel is basically forcing you to play all three guys in cash, which, so I built that lineup. You have to play them at their price tags. Even a running back, wide receiver, tight end from the same team is not ideal, but you have to do it with the price tag there. So the thing that's bugging me is I'm uncomfortable that Kyler Murray is not my cash quarterback on that site with all the other pieces from Arizona. So I kind of decide if I need to work him in or if it's okay to play all those Arizona pieces without their quarterbacks. I feel like it's not. So that's a tricky thing on FanDuel. And Kyler is coming in as the highest owned quarterback on that site too. So it's definitely a difficult situation.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would not mind a Murray, Connor, Ertz, and Kirk stack. I mean, that sounds pretty nice to me, especially at the salaries on FanDuel.
Yeah, of course. And you don't need the bonuses either. So for those prices, it's just so easy to play them.
Oh yeah. On the Seattle side, a couple things stick out. Are you liking anything on Seattle?
Well, yeah, I think you have to like Penny. He was actually even a little bit involved. He got 3 targets in the passing game. That was the thing that was keeping me away from him anyway. But, I mean, he rushed for – so 6.8 yards per carry against Detroit, 7.9 yards per carry against Chicago. Then the Rams bottled him up the game before that. And then 8.6 yards per carry against Houston the game before that. I mean, that's obviously unsustainable, but this looks like the breakout, right? And Arizona is vulnerable to running backs as well. So I do think he's probably my favorite run back option on Seattle if you're stacking Arizona and GPP, which I'm sure people are going to be doing. Where are you on that?
Yeah, I think he's definitely a great run back option. He's been on fire as of late. He was 6,100 last week. Had a big game against Detroit. They priced him up only 400. So yeah, he'd be a good run back option for me. The other 2 run back options I would be looking at would be Tyler Locke and a DK Metcalf. The only thing with this is I cannot get these guys right. Like whenever I go with Lockett, Metcalf goes off and has a huge game he had. I went with Lockett last week. Metcalf had a 30 piece against Detroit. Whenever I go with Metcalf gets 3 points and Lockett gets 50. So it's just so frustrating. I can never get these 2 right. Do you have a preference on either one this week?
No, because it's the same thing. I mean, Lockett, for what it's worth, has owned Arizona in recent years, or at least with this the current coaching staff that they have in place for both teams. but you're right. I mean, it's this is not a new thing either. This dates back to last year, where it's very rare that like you can kind of interchange them. You know, it's the week of Lockett or the week of Metcalf. So I would pick Lockett of the two, but again, with no real conviction, because the game plan could go either way there.
Yeah, I'd probably go Lockett as well because he's cheaper. Do you see the ownership on these guys?
I assume Metcalf is higher, but I'm looking. So I don't see them down here. So there's Lockett at 25th at just under 5%, and Metcalf at 32nd at just over 3%. So actually the ownership is favoring Lockett by a bit right now, but neither one is that high owned.
Yeah, neither are getting a lot of ownership as well. What was the ownership on Penny? Is he coming in at high ownership? I haven't take a look. Penny.
Yeah, there he is. 9th, 7%.
9th. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, these Seattle pieces, not a ton of ownership on them, and I actually like them as run back options a lot.
Yep. This game is definitely one to look at, and even Seattle. Even though they're long eliminated, they give up their first round pick to the Jets, so there's really no incentive to tank. Same thing goes for the Bears, who lose their pick to the Giants. So there's really no reason that we shouldn't see their players playing the full game here.
Yeah, for sure. I think I covered all the games here. Was there anything we missed in this game? I think we covered about everything.
Yeah, I think we got a good sense of this week. In about 20 minutes we'll get those inactive reports. I would have to assume that some kind of shenanigans to throw everything into a bit of a tailspin is going to happen. So I mean, just be prepared for that and look and see, just what to do. The one thing I think we didn't mention too is if for some reason Connor sits, we do have Eno Benjamin at the minimum 4,000, which would be hard to get away from in such a good matchup.
Yeah, that's definitely a good call there. So yeah, what to look out for those shenanigans. This is going to be the last Sunday show of the year, right? We have the playoffs coming up. So yeah, it's definitely been fun. We'll be back sometime next week for the playoffs. But yeah, anything else you'd like to mention before we head out of here?
No, I think we're good. Yeah, this has been a fun season. I've been glad to break this down with you. It certainly helps me put my lineups together, hearing a different take on it every week. So, I hope we've done the same for anybody listening.
Yeah, for sure. Let's end Week 18 in the regular season on a high note with a nice big win. Good luck to you, Jamie. Good luck to everybody out there. We'll see you very soon. See you